Hello and welcome back. We are going to continue our exploration of the attraction, and we're going to talk about some of the fields of energy and that they attract other fields. And while these presentations just skim the surface of this interesting topic of taking responsibility for yourself and your desires, you can get a deeper understanding in creation by design, which is available at the usual online platforms. So energy is everything. Everything is composed of energy. The well, the video you're watching, that's energy. The cup of coffee you may be holding, or the pencil, or the keyboard you may be resting your hands on, all of that is energy. Different forms of energy. Light is energy. Everything is energy. And energies associated with attraction exist on a more subtle and malleable plane than what we are accustomed to. Now, wood is energy, and we can shape it, cut it, plane it, carve it, paint on it. We can do all sorts of things with it. But when it comes to attraction, that energy that is tied to attraction, now that requires some thinking here because it's all very subtle. Think of, oh, well, I honestly can't think of anything that is that pliable. But the energies associated with attraction are pliable through the mind, through your thinking, more importantly, through the type of life you live. So, mental energy. Yes, there is such a thing as mental energy. When you are thinking, if you are in one of those positions where you are analyzing a lot of data, doing a lot of data entry, research, writing, all of that requires mental energy. These presentations that I do on spirituality, uh, attraction, and ideology and philosophy, all of that requires mental energy. And the presentations you are watching are a presentation of energy in action. That is mental energy. Anything that you are doing that is of a mental capacity requires energy. And the only thing you can do that requires very little energy is to just watch videos for entertainment, because the mind is not required to analyze, represent, however you want to put it. The mind is just essentially decompressing. I use videos for decompressing. A lot of you use videos to gather information. And that's one of the reasons why I present my material, my information that I have gleaned over the years through video, because it works. I write. I probably should post stuff, but I don't have a website anymore. This does a much better job. However, if anybody should request anything, any more information, or have any questions, simply you can ask them in the well, you know what? Perhaps I will provide you with an email address. There's a thought. Or again, you can post them in the reply and I will do my best to answer them. So, with mental energy, thinking is the natural function of the mind. Thoughts. The nature of mind is to create thoughts. That's all it does. It creates thoughts, ideas, and it is up to you to consciously shape those ideas, just as I am shaping my ideas of attraction into a video format for you. It just doesn't happen all by itself. You have to think about it. And every time you think about it, you're using that mental energy. When you move your body, when you're out jogging, when you're walking along the aisles at the store, when you're driving in your car, you need mental energy to tell the body what to do. So mind must think. If you're one of those who have tried meditation and have thought that you failed miserably, well, probably because some fool told you to stop thinking. That's not it. The nature of mind is to create thoughts. That is what it does. You cannot stop it. Therefore, when you are sitting for meditation, when you are developing that, you let those thoughts go through your head. Zoom, zoom, and you do not reach out and grab any of those. No, 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 no. You allow those thoughts to go. Don't focus on them. Don't reconsider ideas that maybe if you'd done this event may have happened differently. Don't do that. Observe. The main thing about meditation is you observe. So don't try and stop thinking. That's ridiculous. Contemplation. Now, contemplation is, well, think of it as you are looking for solutions and such. You are replaying an event in your mind, looking for solutions. This is when you want to interfere with those thoughts, when you want to redirect them. When every time you use your imagination, you are using mental energy, but you are also seeking solutions. Now, imagination is just as good for discovering solutions as it is for an escape from boredom. And let's face it, we've all used our imagination at work to escape boredom. Imagine ourselves someplace else with someone doing anything but what we're doing then. Imagination is your best friend in a lot of ways. It's the key to visualization. And as you learn to be an active participant in the attraction, that imagination is going to help you because you will have to visualize. So, contemplation uses physical energy to generate mental energy, meaning the food you take in, physical energy, is used to supply the mind with energy, or the brain, I should say, is used to supply the brain with energy so the mind and the physical reality can interact. And just a little tidbit, do you know that the brain is the only organ that relies on glucose or sweeteners, sugar? Anyway, the mind is intangible and the brain is the medium. The mind exists out here. It's one of those information fields, a morphic field. We'll talk about those later. But the mind exists out here and it interacts with the brain. And there is a combination or a key that connects this particular field of information that is your mind with your brain. So mind is intangible. You cannot touch it. Brain is tangible. It is the medium. And anything to do with the mind and its relationship with the brain is part of the mental energy system. And think of it like this: the importance of mental energy. Before you can do anything, before you can even get up in the morning, get up out of bed, you have to have a desire to get up. You have to have a reason. It's like that with everybody. If you can't get someone involved with you, it's because they're not motivated. We do not do anything unless we are motivated, unless we are invested. And typically that investment is through emotions. Emotions are very, very important, particularly to attraction. We'll get to that in a moment. So the mind thinks. And as the mind thinks, so goes the body. Oh, I'm thirsty. I think I'll get a glass of water. Up you get, and off you go to get a glass of water. That's how it works. You must have a desire in order to do something. I mean, and that's one of the most fundamental aspects of every person on this planet, including yourself. Think about it. Just think about it. Why did you get up? Something motivated you. And it had to do with emotions, whether it's getting up for the drudgery of work. The emotion that's motivating you is that payday, you need money, therefore you need to work. There's a whole train of events. We're not even going to go into that. But while desire is correlated with the emotions, the idea that where mind goes is not entirely true, because emotions, well, it is. It is. But if we look at intellect as the ability to think, and emotions not as the ability to feel, but the ability to respond, because we will respond. And the typical person responds according to their emotions. The typical person, not all. People who are more disciplined respond more through their reasoning abilities than through impulsiveness, which is their emotional promptings. And we will be getting to that in a moment, as I said. Now, the brain is what interfaces with the mind and consumes enormous amounts of energy. Your brain consumes more energy than the rest of your body because it operates everything else. The autonomic system operates your breathing, your heart rate, circulation, digestion, all of that is done. So your brain consumes large amounts of energy. And this energy comes from the foods that you consume, which is why you want to pay attention to what it is that you are eating. Excessive sweets, excessive fats, anything that's in excess is going to be detrimental to you in some form. Now, we know that excessive fats are detrimental to the circulatory system because it raises your cholesterol levels and it creates blockages in your arteries and heart. We know that. Smoking, or even anything that you take into your lungs, has an effect on your lungs. Smoking happens to fill them up with tar. And there are probably other carcinogens in the air. Plastics, plastic particulates, that's it. Plastic particulates are in everything. They're in the air you breathe. They're in the food you drink. Those plastic bottles of water, yeah, those are filled with plastic particulates. which is why I tend to consume my water from a glass container or a metal container, anything but plastic. Anything but plastic. The only time I use plastic is if I'm at a restaurant. Of course, that is something recently discovered. It's not included in the book. So, anyway, yes, you want to pay attention to what you are consuming. You want to make sure that what you are consuming is going to be beneficial to you, is going to promote what you desire. And the mind has become very efficient in using its energy. There are these habits that we have. I'm sure we talked about habits. They are called schemas. They're mental routines that we go through. And these mental routines are what get us through the day. It's not the idea of operating on autopilot. It's the idea of being aware of what you are doing while on autopilot. Because autopilot is very important. It allows you to do what some people call multitasking, but you can only multitask mentally. You can't multitask physically. It just doesn't work. They've done studies regarding this, and if you're doing this, and you think you're multitasking, doing all three of them at the same time, you're not. It's a myth, because studies indicate that when you're doing this, the brain is focused on this. When you're doing that, it's focused on that. When you're doing that, it's focused on that. However, if you've got something stewing, what we call on the back burner and everything, the mind, through the subconscious, is working on that while you are doing this, and this. So you can multitask mentally, but you can't multitask physically. Just a little something to keep in mind there. So let's look at the strange brew of emotions. Now, emotional energy is powerful. That is the most powerful form of energy the brain produces. Emotions can get us into trouble, can get us out of trouble, can move us forward, move us backward. Emotions are responsible for your life. They are responsible for your life. And they are so powerful that we broadcast them. Our emotions exude from us. They're just there. People can sense when you're in a bad mood. People can sense when you're in a good mood. How do they do that? It's not because they're empathic. It's just because you may be emotional, and that's what you're focused on. Where the mind is focused, so goes the chi, so goes everything else. The stronger energy draws the weaker behind it. That's been proven. Now, consider this. Consider this. You step into a room and you comment, boy, it really feels heavy in here, depressing, suffocating. Well, those are the emotions of someone who has imprinted them upon the room, upon certain items. Psychometry is based on emotional imprinting upon an object. You can hold an object up, clear your thoughts, clear your mind. And when I say clear your mind, you want to reduce your thought flow and allow the sensations from something else to come in. So you clear your mind, you're holding it up, and you get these faint impressions. Those faint impressions are what you are receiving from the object. Think of the object as a recorder, and you are attempting to play back what these objects recorded. And they've got different tracks on them, just like the old cassette players and 8 tracks. They got different tracks on them, and you will key into certain tracks. So at the same time, someone bursts into the room and they feel giddy or rushed or anything. You feel that energy because they're pushing it out. They're pushing it out. So energies are the most potent thing the brain generates, and we are exceptionally dependent on our emotions. That's why if we suppress our emotions, we are just begging, begging for mental health issues, just begging for it. So you don't want to stuff those emotions down. You want to explore those emotions. Every emotion has a story to tell you, and you want to explore those emotions because those emotions will tell you what's going on with you. So pay attention to them. Don't let them rule you. That is the problem with a lot of people. They're undisciplined, and because they're undisciplined, when they get angry, they strike out, and when they strike out later on, they're filled with regret and everything. If you could just learn to curb these emotions, filter them, run them through your reasoning part of the mind, and you will filter out what is harmful. When you're angry, don't just strike out. Explore that anger. Discover why you are angry and what you can do to allow it to dissipate without getting yourself into trouble. So, your memories, believe it or not, your memories are dependent upon your emotions because your memories, that's how they're coded. They're coded with emotions. You're more likely to remember those. Can you remember the last time you did something boring? I ask this questions of my students all the time, and you know what? Nobody can remember being bored. It's just boop, that's gone. It's like fast forwarding through a commercial. So all of our memories are charged with emotions. And the emotions has nothing to do with, well, with what we call negative and positive. Negative emotions, don't think of negative emotions as bad emotions. Negative emotions are those emotions that cause us to act without thinking. Anger causes us to act without thinking. Jealousy causes us to act without thinking. Whereas the positive emotions, joy, happiness, well, I don't know about happiness, joy, excitement, and all of that, yeah, that too can drive us to do some pretty dumb things. But no, we like that feeling. That's why people are thrill seekers. They become addicted to that feeling and they just have to have more and more. Well, that's not going to help you if you want to understand this whole concept of attraction. It's not going to help you with that. So, the reasons that your memories are charged with emotions is because your attention was focused on that emotion, that event connected with that emotion. That's where the focus was at. The focusing is what imprints our memories. So if you want to remember something, you have to charge it with some kind of emotion. And, you can do that. With practice, you can do that because when we are in conversation or when we see something or smell something, these are cues for our memories. And with the right cue, they can draw out memories that you thought you'd forgotten. So, and, people come together for the very reason to share these emotions. They bask in each other's emotions. That's why we like to get together with like minded people. We bask in each other's energy, each other's emotion. And And as we are caught up in the conversations, these memories get triggered because of these cues and everything. That's why we get together for that. That's why misery loves company. So does anger. So does happiness. So does stone. There's one. And another reason why we like to get together is because our brains are hardwired to communicate with others, whether we communicate verbally, through body language, or mentally, emotionally. Everything that we send out is an attempt at communicating with someone who is similar to us. We do it without thinking. We are naturally wired for it. We're hardwired for it. It's part of our being. It takes discipline to not do that. And, people come together for the very reason to share these emotions. They bask in each other's emotions. That's why we like to get together with like-minded people. We bask in each other's energy, each other's emotion. And as we are caught up in the conversations, these memories get triggered because of these cues and everything. That's why we get together for that. That's why misery loves company. So does anger. So does happiness. So does stone. There's one. And another reason why we like to get together is because our brains are hardwired to communicate with others, whether we communicate verbally, through body language, or mentally, emotionally. Everything that we send out is an attempt at communicating with someone who is similar to us. We do it without thinking. We are naturally wired for it. We're hardwired for it. It's part of our being. It takes discipline to not do that. So if you want anything to be attracted towards you, you have to participate in life. You have to do your part. This attraction is all about you doing your part. Now, what we attract naturally is based on what we are doing without thought. That's why your worldview is so important, because it draws energies, it draws events towards it that are understandable, comprehensible. Of course, this isn't 100%, but for the most part, that your active role in drawing events towards you is on an unconscious level. And before we can actively draw stuff toward us, we must understand what it is that we are already doing. Because when you understand what you are already drawing to you and why it's coming your way, then you can begin to tweak your behavior and then begin to draw events, opportunities to you with intent. Now, there is one emotion that you must understand, and that is fear. People say a lot about fear, how fear is supposed to be bad for you and everything. You need to change your approach to that. Why are people afraid? People are afraid because they lack experience, they lack information, they don't understand, they don't know what's there. People become fearful because they are lacking something. When you discover what it is that is lacking, then you can prepare yourself. If it's information you're lacking, you find that information so you have a better understanding of it. If it's experience that you're lacking, then you step into what it is that you are fearful of. If you don't understand, you have to ask questions. See, fear is all based on something that is lacking, and it is up to you to determine what it is that is lacking and remedy that. And once you remedy that, the fear is more likely to transform into curiosity, excitement, and all these other things. So, your emotions are important. Take time to explore them, take time to understand them, because your emotions are what was going to teach you about what it is that you are drawing towards you and how you can draw particular events and opportunities towards you. I hope this was of value for you. As I said at the beginning, the book goes more in depth, creation by design. And take a moment, like the video, subscribe. When you subscribe, I believe you are notified when new videos come out. And, I broach a variety of topics. So I want to thank you for stopping by and, be mindful of what you want.